is lawyer Jessy Oduor, who's now joining me in studio. A very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon to you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Welcome.
So we have a meeting that has been ongoing since morning for the Judicial Service Commission. I don't know whether there's a likelihood for a big announcement, but for starters, what would be the factors that would influence how they would pick the next Chief Justice?
Akisa, there are several factors that will influence the successor to Mutunga, the former Chief Justice. The most important factors will be the provisions as provided in the Constitution and the Judicial Service Act. You realize the Constitution clearly looks at the issues of integrity, issues of leadership, issues of jurisprudence development with regard to being a judge, because you realize the Chief Justice position is not just judicial, but then he leads or she leads one arm of government, that is the judiciary. And then apart from that, he doubles up as the chairman of the Judicial Service Commission, and also sits as the president of the Supreme Court. So it is both the judicial aspect, administrative aspect, and then of the books, it's also political appointment,
When, of course, you've mentioned the Constitution, integrity issues and whatnot, but there's also the very important factor that you've mentioned, politics. How big a role would the country's politics, as they are right now, play when it comes to the picking or the choosing of the next CJ?
You realize politics plays a bigger role, because at the end of the day, it's the president who's going to appoint the Chief Justice. And then once the Judicial Service Commission recommends a name, it has to go back to Parliament for Parliament to vet the person who is going to be the Chief Justice before it's forwarded to the president for subsequent appointment. So politics will start playing at the Parliament level. And in fact, without casting a shadow of doubt on the integrity of the Judicial Service Commission members, they also represent certain political interests. We have to be alive to that fact. They'll also have to look into the ethnic balancing when they're appointing the person who's going to succeed Mutunga. And then you realize, for you to realize that it was really political, you remember that Parliament had tried to amend the Judicial Service Commission Act, which was subsequently suspended by the High Court and the Court of Appeal, meaning politicians wanted to have a say on who becomes the next Chief Justice of Kenya. So the stakes are high, because eventually the Chief Justice is going to determine presidential election, is going to be the president of the Supreme Court. And any political entity will want a friendly Chief Justice, or so to speak.
Does the fact that we're heading into an electioneering period make it worse that we are having this exercise right now? Does it insert more pressure on the JSC to pick the right person as the CJ?
Actually, it does, because you remember the former Chief Justice Mutunga actually retired 1 year before his election, because his argument was he wants the next Chief Justice to come and settle in first before the next election, meaning politics and the next presidential election plays a very integral role. And therefore, with regard to the next year's election, then the JSC is under a lot of pressure politically.
Let's talk about the list of people who were interviewed. A number here behind our screens. A total of, say, about 13, 14 were interviewed. One opted out. Udoto also came in but was not interviewed. But I know we have front runners. You're a lawyer. You've worked with a number of these people. Who would be the likely front runners for this particular seat?
That will be a tricky question.
I know, I'm throwing you under the bus on here.
Keeping in mind that most of the applicants here are judges who I appear before in court on a daily basis. But then you look at, there are two factors that are also going to play in. The factor of age is also important, it's going to play in, and also looking at the academia. Most of the front runners, actually, most of the people who applied, I think 10 out of 13 are very qualified to be Chief Justice of Kenya, and actually pity the Judicial Service Commission, because looking at the resume of this lady and gentleman, since it was only one lady, then they had a big task.
We had Rosalind Ambuye as well.
Rosalind Ambuye, yes, Rosalind Ambuye, with regard to the ladies, she takes the front seat. You could see this is a person who's been a judge for a long time, and then without casting any doubt on or credibility, the other lady came in. I don't know whether somebody told her this is a religious institution, but then
King David, I think.
yeah, David is also my first name. But then with regard to this gentleman, they're very competent, I must say. With regard to justices, some of them as justices of the Supreme Court of Kenya.
Jessy, just just hold on to that thought. I know we will continue with this discussion probably in the second bit of the bulletin. Just